Welcome to Born for the Trades, a home service podcast. This is your host, Shreya, and today we're going to dive into the story of a humble leader and a family man that grew his business from his garage with his father to 17 million last year. An amazing story. But before we dive in, I want to give a special shout out to Rilla, the sales coaching AI software that I'm sure you've heard about. And the software holds the technicians accountable, gives them support and guidance that they need to maximize all the opportunities that you spend your hard-earned money on. Our friends at Elite Call, the outbounding specialists, a service that brings wasted leads and brings them back to life to create more opportunity to keep the dispatch board full. And Grow Reviews is America's first instant text and video review platform built solely for the home service industry. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000. And imagine all these services combined. I think if I had this in the field every time that I go over this, what could have happened? So I got to get back in the field soon, I think, so I could use all of this myself. But today we're joined by Ted Fox, the leader behind Fox Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, and Electrical. Ted started the company with his father in 1999, growing it from a garage operation to an industry powerhouse. In 2012, Ted took full ownership and with his wife Sue's support, transformed the brand into one that offers great workplace career opportunities and top-notch customer service. Under Ted's leadership, Fox Services has grown to over 100 employees and achieved 17 million in revenue last year. Ted's commitment to his family legacy while driving the company forward is truly inspiring. Now let's dive into Ted's journey and the insights he's gained along the way. Welcome, Ted. I'm glad to finally have you on.
Oh, thanks for having me, Shreya. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, of course. And I really wanted to cover your story because you've been a huge inspiration to me. When I think of Ted Fox, I think of a humble leader. Like it's the first thing that comes to my mind. Or if anyone's read Good to Great, it's rare to find what you would perceive as a level 5 leader, if you know
Wow.
what I mean. And you're one of those people that, do I know any level 5 leaders? I think Ted Fox is a level 5 leader, just my opinion. So it's definitely an honor to have you on today. I appreciate you coming on.
Wow. I'm not sure that I deserve that. Thank you very much.
See, humble.
I know how to be.
You're
Well,
proving
I'm
it.
trying to be gracious. I have read Good to Great a number of times, and that level. Well, I'm just going to leave it there. I will spoil it if I talk anymore. But thank you.
I could tell you've read it. I could tell it comes across very much.
Okay.
Um, so I want to cover, I haven't personally heard, I think enough of your backstory of where you started in 1999 with your dad. By the way, I was born in 1999, if anyone could wrap their heads around that. Um, so I want to kind of go back to the early days or day one when you and your dad were working out of the garage, right?
Okay.
Starting Fox Services. And what was the dynamic like with your dad at that time? And what was going on at that time? What were your plans?
That's interesting. I'll go. So I was just finishing up trade school. I got into trade school like right out of high school, and my dad had talked about starting a company before. He was working for a utility company. And so I talked to him, hey, let's go ahead, let's make a company up. But he's like, no, you got to go get your own tickets. I don't want you to learn all my mistakes. You bring something to the table. So I just finished my final year of school. I had a foot surgery done, so I was like laid up on my dad's couch and decided that was the time. Let's start this company up. And so I mean, not too much to say, but what was going on was basically my dad was, I think, I don't say midlife crisis, but he was like having a change of life at the time.
Hmm.
I was young at that time. I wasn't being born that year, but I was pretty young. I was, would it be 18 or 19 years old.
Mhm.
And so we just grabbed the phone book and started calling around to all the competitors we could find in our area, which is a very small area, and asking them how much per hour they were charging, and to determine our hourly rate. And that was like the very first thing we did was figure out how to be cheaper than everybody else around us.
And how
And
was the
that was
dynamic with your dad? Because, I really am interested in family legacy companies or
sure.
family companies, and a lot of people have different dynamics. So how did you guys work together? What's his personality like and yours?
Right. That's a great question. My dad and I got along really, really well. We always had a good dynamic, um, and and I really looked up to him. He was for sure a hero of mine, and always seemed to have it together. Always seemed to have the answers. But for a young guy, I think that's pretty normal when you're seeing it. So it was really a dad was coming in with the experience, and I was coming in with to basically do the work. I was going to be the going out and getting the stuff done, and he was going to be the experience to lead the company into something kind of great. And at that time, he was coming out of like a say utility job where he was managing like 50 or 60 employees at this utility job. So he was really a structured kind of individual. Processes were super important. SOPs really important. So we were very quickly probably the only two person operation that had that had like systems and operations for everything that we did. Um,
Wow.
but and I still have some of those sheets. I keep them around, like our job tracking sheets and our just different items and that we kept, that I learned from him that way. So definitely it was a mentee, is mentee a word? But it was a mentorship kind of idea. And then we quickly just became a partnership where we're just kind of both doing our own strengths. I was going out and getting the work done, building customer rapport. Dad was helping to keep, like, the office running in the field as well, at that time. And yeah, and he's got the same name as me, so it got a little confusing. So we're both, there's Ted Senior, Ted Junior,
Oh,
and he's a really young looking guy, and I was an old looking for my time, so people always thought we were brothers. So that's, I guess, a little bit more backstory than probably what we needed. So
no, no, that's exactly what I was looking for sure. Because I mean, to go into the details so that people can relate. I mean, what's not relatable, but it is really good advice is like starting out with systems and processes is you're right. It's super rare. I've never seen that before. So starting out on that basis of already having the organization is really great advice to anyone that's listening that's just currently starting their company. They don't have to wait until later for something
no.
like that. Yeah. And what were some of the biggest challenges in the early years that you guys ran into?
So challenge, I mean, the first year was, the challenge was work, just waiting for the phone to ring. And really that kind of ended up being the story for years to come. Was my dad was fully convinced that the marketing was a bad thing. Like we did the most minimal amount of marketing possible, and it was in strange places. It was like on the local TV news channel or something, like, and I mean, we're talking real basic like channel 13. It
Mm,
was interesting. But if so I was kind of on the mindset of like, hey, we should put out a flyer, we should do some kind of advertising campaign. And he was very much like, no, the only advertising we need is word of mouth. And so we did that. We built great rapport with customers for 12 or 13 years together, but
wow.
that really only gets you so far. And so workload was always like we would work a lot, but not for the full year. And so that was a long time of that. And that's one thing I could say as well, I guess, looking at those early years. Um, if you're in a true partnership, like my dad and I were in a true partnership, but we made sure when we set it up that it was a 51-49. So you always had to have somebody with the ability to veto, right? So
Hmm.
straight 50-50 partnerships, that's a dangerous thing. But 49-51 we did. And in a partnership, though, no always wins. Like whoever says no is the one you're listening to.
Mm,
And so with that, like a partnership like that, new ideas, new things like that, if the other party is like out, you got to just be out on it. And so for me and my dad, that was, or my dad and I, pardon me, we were really tight, really like worked well together, really great relationship and attitudes, and I learned lots from him. um we were never ever going to grow in any way ever, with the way that we conducted business. It was solely dependent on me running the calls, and dad supporting me in that, and doing the office side of the work. So for from 2000, or sorry, from 1999 until 2012, we never surpassed $300,000 a year. So it was just like it was the
wow.
same. for more than a decade. So I really understand time and material. I understand I understand that life. I understand people make fun of it, chucking a truck or one man shows or whatever. I fully respect it. I lived it for a long, long time, and I completely get where it's coming from. I got a lot of empathy that way because after kind of changing changing my ways, I still think that there's a place in every community for those people to run a good business that way. And
Mm.
some of them will migrate into a larger company, and some will stay just like that. And there's honor and integrity and good times in both. It just there's no way we could grow or make an impact doing it the way we did it for so long without change.
Right. And then you took over in 2012, right? Was that
Yes.
right? And when you
Yes.
took
Yeah.
over, was marketing the first one of the, because of what you just said, is marketing one of the first things that you invested more in and implemented? What was your plan when you took over?
Yeah, so it was kind of a it was a bit of a storm. I took over, bought the 50% from my father, and the very first thing I did is I put out a flyer, and it was literally a flyer that just said like this is who we are. They didn't even have an offering on it. Like there was no dollars off or anything. It was just a this is us and here's the services we provide. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to market, but I had some
Mhm.
ideas, and that led us to our largest month in history by I think double or triple numbers. And so from that forward, it was kind of learning that oh, can I only do you listen to other people around you. They say, hey, I got your flyer in the mail. I hate flyers, right? Or and it's usually your competitors that are telling you that. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, once per year I'll put out a flyer, and then I'll maybe do a little bit of radio. But over time, you start realizing what your cadence is and about marketing and et cetera. You can't do it all at once. But if I was to restart a company again, I wouldn't start it on a word of mouth basis. I would use both. Like you use marketing to gain customers. Your word of mouth is it might be better customers, better relations, but you use marketing to gain your customers, but you better be able to back that up with amazing service to keep them and to gain more, right? Yeah, I think that's so. Yes, to answer your question, one of the very first things was making sure that we had some form of marketing in there, and then I started. It was looking at we needed to grow it a little bit because for the past 13 years I hadn't taken a holiday yet, and so I
Mm.
was like I wanted to be able to go away for a week without like have the company run. So I'm like I need to grow to a point so I can have an employee or two because I hadn't we'd had an apprentice now and again, but it was just the two of us. And so very quickly then we just started growing. And from basically 2012 until now, we've grown at around 30% per year, every year, 27 to 32. So it's always right around that 30% mark, which compounds and it's just more people and more processes and more things, but it's all based off that same customer first kind of attitude. That's actually our first core value is customer first because that's how Dad and I always ran it.
I want to give a special shout out to Rilla, the sales coaching AI software that holds the technicians accountable and gives them the support and guidance they need to maximize all the opportunities you spend your hard-earned money on. Our friends at Elite Call, the outbounding specialists, a service that brings wasted leads and brings them back to life to create more opportunity and keep the dispatch board full, integrate them right there into Service Titan for you.
I want to give special shout out to Grow Reviews, one of our sponsors, America's first platform to capture instant text and video reviews. If a picture is 1,000 words, a video is worth a million. Book a demo with Grow Reviews by visiting website www.growreviews.com, and you can get in touch with their sales reps to book a demo.
That's solid. And with having over 100 employees, how do you how do you keep track? How do you implement that customer first and make sure that 100 employees are practicing that as well?
uh, Trial and error. No, I started utilizing for a while. Like I grew the company to say a couple $1 million with my wife. We just kind of did what we were good at. I was really good at plumbing. I was really good at putting in furnaces. There seemed to be good money in it, and we just concentrated on that. Eventually, though, you get to a point where you can't you can't keep doing what you're doing because you're growing a little bit too big. And the people who were working for you, like I was out shoulder to shoulder with them running installs and things. I'm not running the company. And so I started looking for training, basically training venues, training things to help get some of the word out to my own people. In 2016, at the end of 2016, I like a little earlier than that, I joined Service Roundtable, which I think is now called Service Nation, and was getting some best practices from there. I had built some flat rate pricing and stuff. There was no flat rate in our area. It was all like, I'm in a very small town, about 50,000 people. We've since expanded into another couple of neighboring cities. So we've got a total of about 180,000 people that we serve. And the very first kind of flat rate thing I brought out, I wrote my own pages. Then I worked with a company called Callahan Roach, which was big like books for flat rate. And it took years just to get my own techs convinced that this was an okay thing to do, to try and control our, because everybody wanted me. Sorry, I know I'm stumbling over myself, but everybody wanted me to go and do their work. So when I'm sending another technician out, I would get the complaint calls saying, Ted, this guy took twice as long as you would have, or this guy's not as experienced, or this guy went way too fast. And so by doing flat rate, I was like, okay, well then the price is already decided. It can take them as long as they want. I'll eat the cost, but at least we've got a signed upfront quote. So that led down a path, and we joined with Nexstar at the end of 2016. And Nexstar kind of came in with like, hey, we've got a roadmap to success for you, like a roadmap of continuing what you're doing, and we can support your people through that. Like kind of best in the industry kind of training in that. And so I got in with Nexstar, and what we found with them was that, at least what I found is, it was amazing to have somebody outside of myself to come and talk to, or coaches to speak with the staff to show them like, this is actually legitimately like, your owner seems crazy, but if you went around North America, you'd find that this is actually a normal thing, and it's actually a good thing, and look at what benefits it's going to bring to your company. And it did. And so we continued this growth pattern and growth, like growing up, and over time since then, we've utilized services from, I mean, numbers, like we use Service MVP. We're not with Service Nation anymore, but everybody has like their own little bits that are so good. And for that, but as long as you've got your core values that you can go by, and the way, your ethics that you're going to run within, then all these other tools that you bring into the table, if you apply them to who you are and what your intent is, you can come up with a really great, an amazing, and individual product on the other end. So I've always kind of subscribed to the idea that that I'm not that smart, but I am very trainable. So if I can listen close enough and digest the information and put it in a package that aligns with my heart and my intent, then it's very easy for me to stand behind it within the company. And so you get that kind of buy-in from your people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I went way too far there, but
No, I don't think so at all. I think if anything, there's a lot more information from you on this subject, but it would take all day because of just the amount of experience that you have with training and development and leadership and all of that. We could cover for hours, but cover the most important things is like how would you suggest, if you were to give advice, which you do all the time? A lot of people call you and ask for advice on different services that they're going to start using, different softwares. What kind of advice do you give them to take advantage of those things without them letting their investments go to waste?
Yeah. So I go on an individual basis, and I ask kind of what level they're at, like where they're at, what they're struggling with. And then I'm always very, very upfront with people, in that I don't always get it right? Like that I go through very profitable years and years of loss. So there's lots. You always have to be careful how many people you're getting advice from or giving advice to. So if somebody calls me for advice, normally I'm just like, what are you struggling with? Where's the area that you're struggling with most? And then I'll recommend something to them in that way. So for instance, well, call by call management is something that where I am currently in my business journey is working really well for me. I don't think I could have implemented call by call management into my business properly if I wasn't in the place I am. If I didn't
Mhm.
have appropriate connections, appropriate people in place, the technicians to do it. And I'm not saying somebody else couldn't have done it, but I'm saying for me personally, where I am I in a spot that I'm willing to chase this down and do it properly? Or am I in a spot where I'm going to half-ass it and throw my money out the window? Because I think that that's the thing that a lot of people do with training is they kind of think that training is like a magic wand. I'm going to send my folks to training. I'm sending them away and they're going to come back trained and they are amazing, right? They're going to come back on fire. Um, I've I've always gone with my people. If I'm sending them to training, I'll go with them, or I'll send somebody in my stead. But it's usually me that goes. So if I'm not willing to make that sacrifice and go along, then it's not that important. So my advice is, are you ready? Are you literally ready to make the change that you're going to ask everybody else to make when you're training them? If you are not ready, then do not you can't put them before you. You have to be bought in 100% and you have to be committed to do the reps. So that whole saying like you show me your reps and I'll show you your results, it's the same thing. If you got the discipline to legitimately do what needs to be done day after day, then you'll have success with whatever training you're going to. I do see people who bounce from training to training to training, like looking for that silver bullet, and I don't believe there is one. I believe that so much rises and falls on leadership, and so yeah, I think that'd be my advice: is where are you now, and where are you personally now? How invested are you in making a change and a difference? And if you are like, man, I'm ready to do this, then jump in and go. Like invest in that area and nail it.
Solid. Yeah, the leader must have commitment to it if he expects his people to do the same. Is super solid advice. That's something that could apply to everybody, but I totally agree with what you're saying. There's a lot of blanket statements and strong opinions that are put on people of all sizes that might not necessarily apply to them, and kind of
Right.
misguide them and misdirect them at a place that they're just not ready for something like that, possibly. With call by call
Totally.
management, I guess because it's more of a recent thing that you've been implementing, can you describe, your perception on what call by call management is and what it's done for your company, some of the struggles there?
Yeah, I've got so my perception of it, I keep saying it's like Mission Impossible, where you've got your technician is in breaking into the bank. They're Tom Cruise, right? And the call by call manager is the person in the van sitting outside with all the gear, like watching the
That's
job
such a
happen.
good analogy.
And
Wow.
so if you're doing your job right as a call by call manager, you're watching all the buttons and things, looking for the places they could trip up, trying to get them information, trying to make sure you have a successful mission on every single job. If you're attacking it like that, you got your superhero in the building going for it, and they're gonna like what they do, like they gotta execute all the stuff perfectly, but with your support. And you have to be, if you, and we've all seen Mission Impossible movies, if the person in the van disappears for some silly reason, that's the time that the call fails. So you got to be present, you got to be ready, you got to be watching your monitors and screens, you got to have your earbuds in, you got to be getting all the information on the building before they get there, you got to be hitting it back and forth with them. And if you do all those things, the magic of the system is that you're helping ensure that whatever system you're running is executed at a high level
Right.
consistently. Without it, and I've talked to my techs about this because say like I'm allowed to say talk about Rilla on here, right? So
Yeah, I
so
was going to ask specifically about Rilla, but go
okay,
ahead.
so shout out to Rilla, but and it causes a lot of contention. So a lot of my technicians like, nah, I don't want to use it. I don't believe in being recorded. I don't want, ride-alongs. Like I don't want it's I don't think it's right for the customers. Like there's all sorts of things like that. And I respect the views on that. But I did say one thing. I'm like, I I hire you, train you, like spend countless hours training and resources.
Mhm.
training and you're representing my name, my company, you're doing these things. And so what makes them think that they have a right for some reason that when it all the way through the call, like when they get to the call, that they can throw a Harry Potter cloak of invisibility over themselves and then come out the other side and say, hey, yeah, no, sorry, the customer doesn't, they're not interested. They chased me off the porch. They did whatever, but so I'm like, hey, like, let's record the next one so I can hear what's going on. I don't believe in that. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it my way. You need to trust me. I say, no, it's not that I don't trust you. It's that I want to see where it's going wrong so I can help you.
Right.
And so we had this talk. I'm like, you legitimately, if you're working here, I don't make everybody go on Rilla, but it's like, if I'm asking you to let me in, to take the invisibility cloak off, like that's the moment. That's the whole moment. All the things you do lead up to that customer experience, up to them saying yes, no, or reschedule. Like it's there. So that call by call management, utilizing like Rilla or whatever you're using, or we'll even have like we'll just put people on audio on their phone and we'll listen from the shop just to be able to hear it. But getting past that that cloak of invisibility spot that so many techs kind of hold on to, that I don't want somebody grading me when I'm talking to a customer.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. I think the magic of call by call is in that, and getting people excited to be in a group that's okay with getting better all the time. And for my groups that I have in it, like they're experiencing I don't like to use the word amazing, but they're experiencing amazing success with it. So which is beneficial to the company, to them, and to the customers, because they're getting way better options built now.
Yeah, and I love the way that you're selling it to them because it's truthful. It's like, this is support for you. It's like, I cannot help you without these tools. Call by call is support. It's helping them win on the mission. And that's the truth of what it's for. And they also need to see it that way. Because if it's just micromanaging and invading my privacy sort of thing, then that's what makes it so scary and
Yeah.
so easy to object for the technician. So that's great advice there. And when did you implement Rilla, and kind of what has the experience been of, are you now able to use it where your technicians are bought in, or do you have certain groups that are bought in? Kind of where are you at now with that?
Yeah, great question. So last September, it's been almost a year, we've been working with Rilla. Not fully, like the whole company's not in. We've got basically 10 subscribers to it at the moment. And because I mean, the manager's trained, everybody's got to be in it. And so the way I'm utilizing it right now is if somebody wants on it, they can be on it. So those people who are just like, yeah, give it to me because I want to be able to improve myself. Great. The other ones is the people who are going into the technicians who apply to get into call by call management pod. They're given multiple tools by joining that pod to help with their success, as well as they've got the ability to make more revenue for themselves. And one of those tools is Rilla, and that's how I found it best, for at least for my group, to put it out, is that it's not like, hey, you're going in this thing, so you have to be on this program called Rilla. It's like, no, you're coming to this pod and you have tools at your disposal that we'll use whenever we need to. And if you don't want to be in this elite group, that's okay. We can drop you back out of it. But one of these tools is this.
That's perfect. Yeah, you're really giving them a choice. If they
Yeah,
want to be in that elite group and grow, then this is the software that we do use.
that's
Um,
correct.
that's
And
solid. And also giving them a choice.
it's not just that, either, Shreya. It's also, because I mean, real is one thing, but ensuring that the proper photographs are being taken, that our forms are being filled out correctly, that our options are built properly, like those things. Those are all just non-negotiables. If you're in this group, we're working towards. I mean, we always work towards perfection. Don't expect perfection, but we work towards it. And so if you're the person working towards that, then hey, call by call management's for you, right? So.
Mm, that's super solid. And I wanted to, my last question, I guess, would be, if you were to time travel back to 1999 and have a conversation with you or you and your dad, what kind of advice would you give them, you think?
Oh my gosh, if I travel back and I know what I know now,
Yeah.
and I could talk to myself and my dad, wow. The very first thing I would do, the advice would be, advertise. Make sure that you got advertising, but only advertise what you can do, what you can back up. Don't do anything false. Um, secondary thing would be, I would adjust my pricing immediately. The very first thing I would do, I think, before advertising or anything, would be to set my price right. That would be make a budget, build the budget for where I want to be by the end of the year, and set my price accordingly. Because the way we did it and the way so many people coming into the industry do it is like call around, figure out what everybody else is charging, be $5 cheaper, and go for it. Or just guess, like, hey, I think I'll just use this flat rate book I found lying around and use that. But no, like, I would figure out my pricing and get that done right away, so that those first 13 years could have been profitable. I mean, I can only imagine where we would have been if we had profitability in the first 13 years of business. We'd be a whole different company now. So
Right. That's great advice. I love it. I love it. And thanks so much for coming on and being so open and honest. You're so frank about everything and matter of fact, and it's seriously a service to people. It's for you, I know nothing's exaggerated or under exaggerated. And that's like a really good trait in somebody that I don't see, in a lot of people. So I appreciate, your friendship always and working with you, and being so open on here. And I bet you're going to help a lot of people with what you've shared today. So thanks so much.
thank you, Shreya. That's the whole point. Let's make it all better. So thank you very much. And thank you for everything you're doing for the trades. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.